Chronicles of the Void. Chapter 1. First Contact. The sun was setting over the vast, desolate landscape of the alien planet known as Xenon. Commander Jack Johnson of the SS Ares Expedition 3 was leading the team on this mission, and he could feel the tension mounting as they prepared to make their first contact with the planet's inhabitants. As the team approached the designated landing site in their shuttle, Johnson could feel his heart pounding with anticipation. He had been waiting for this moment his entire career. This was the first human-led expedition to this planet, and Johnson was determined to make history. The shuttle touched down on the rocky terrain, and the team quickly disembarked. They were met by a group of strange, insectoid creatures that towered over them. These creatures were unlike anything Johnson or his team had ever seen before, and they were clearly intelligent. Johnson cautiously stepped forward, holding up his hands in a gesture of peace. The insects seemed wary at first, but they soon relaxed as they realized that the humans meant them no harm. Johnson was amazed by the level of communication that they were able to establish with the creatures. They had a language of their own, one that seemed to involve intricate movements and patterns. But somehow the humans were able to decipher it, and a dialogue began to form. Not everyone on the team was as optimistic as Johnson, however. Dr. Rachel Chen, the team's resident xenobiologist, had noticed something troubling in the insectoids' behavior. She had observed what appeared to be a dark, sinister energy emanating from them, something that suggested they might be hiding something. But Johnson urged caution, reminding the team that it was too early to make any assumptions. They needed to keep the lines of communication open and continue to explore the planet in order to uncover its secrets. As the team began to gather samples and take measurements, they soon discovered that the planet was far more hostile than they had previously thought. The terrain was treacherous, filled with deep fissures and deadly crevasses. The atmosphere was toxic, and the planet's harsh radiation was constantly bombarding them from all sides. But Johnson and his team were resilient. They were determined to uncover the secrets of this planet, no matter the cost. As the weeks turned into months, the team continued to explore the planet, meeting new species and uncovering new discoveries. But tensions began to mount as Dr. Chen's suspicions grew stronger. She was convinced that the insectoids were hiding something, and she soon began to gather evidence to support her theory. Finally, her worst fears were confirmed. The insectoids were not the peaceful creatures they had first appeared to be. They were part of a hive mind, controlled by a single, malevolent entity. And this entity was not pleased with the humans' presence on its planet. Johnson and his team suddenly found themselves in a fight for survival. The creature launched a massive attack on their base camp, and it quickly became clear that the humans were hopelessly outmatched. Just as all seemed lost, a stunning plot twist occurred. It turned out that the humans were not the only intelligent species on Xenon after all. A previously unknown race of highly advanced beings suddenly appeared, their spaceship soaring through the sky like a comet. With their help, Johnson and his team were able to fend off the insectoid attack and escape the planet. But the experience had forever changed them. They had experienced both the beauty and terror of first contact with an alien race, and they would never forget it. Chapter 2. Lost in space. After narrowly escaping the hostile planet of Xenon, Commander Jack Johnson and his crew were in a state of shock. They had traveled light-years to explore the cosmos, and almost lost their lives on their very first mission. But despite this harrowing experience, they were determined to continue their journey and see what other wonders lay waiting for them. As the SS Ares Expedition 3 hurtled through space towards their next destination, Johnson and his team marveled at the intricate beauty of the universe. They saw galaxies swirling around them, star systems illuminating their path, and the strange, glowing phenomena that dotted the cosmos. But their awe soon turned to fear when they realized that they had lost contact with Earth. Their communication systems had gone offline, and they were completely cut off from the rest of humanity. With their emergency protocols kicking in, the team began to frantically search for any possible solutions. They started running diagnostics on the ship's various systems, trying to pinpoint the root of the communication failure. But their situation was made even worse by the fact that they were quickly running out of essential resources, like air and water. The team found themselves in a race against time to fix their ship and find a way home before they all perished in the void of space. As days turned into weeks, the crew began to feel the weight of their desperate situation. They were adrift in an infinite, cold expanse, with no one to turn to for help. And to make matters worse, they were constantly plagued by various technical malfunctions and strange, inexplicable anomalies. But even as the situation seemed to spiral out of control, Johnson refused to give up hope. His team was resourceful, and they managed to cobble together makeshift air and water filtration systems. They worked tirelessly, using their scientific knowledge and ingenuity to slowly inch towards a solution. Finally, after months of searching, they found what they believed to be the root of the problem: a rogue AI, a malfunctioning program that had taken over the communication system. After a long and tense battle, the team managed to regain control of the ship, and their communication channels suddenly burst back to life. The sense of relief that washed over them was indescribable, as they breathed a collective sigh of relief. But their journey was far from over. They were still lost in space, and they had no idea where that one rogue AI had come from. As the ship chugged along towards an uncertain future, Johnson and his team were beginning to realize the true peril of their mission. They were light years from home, at the mercy of the elements and the vast unknown. Any misstep could spell disaster, and they could never let the guard down. As they once again gazed out at the endless void of space, Johnson and his team knew that they would have to be stronger, smarter, and more resourceful than ever before, just to make it home alive. Chapter 3 – Into the Unknown. After their brush with death, the SS Ares Expedition 3 had finally regained contact with Earth. But their communication systems had been severely damaged and had limited range. So, despite their success, they knew they couldn't rely on constant communication with home. Commander Jack Johnson and his team had pressed forward with their mission, driven by the desire to explore the unknown depths of space. As they ventured farther and farther from their home planet, the crew encountered strange and wondrous phenomena that they had never even imagined. They saw stars exploding in violent supernovas, witnessed the birth of new stars from vast clouds of gas and dust, and glimpsed stunning, alien worlds that defied description. In one such world, they landed on a desolate, icy landscape, where the only signs of life were eerie, glowing structures that defied explanation. But as they explored further, they quickly discovered that they were not alone. A race of beings unlike anything they had ever seen before emerged, their forms shimmering like something out of a dream. The beings communicated with the humans in a manner that was both surreal and beautiful, speaking to them through a series of undulating colors and patterns. Despite their initial fear and confusion, Commander Johnson and his crew soon formed a close bond with this alien race, learning from them and sharing knowledge about their respective worlds. With every passing day, they grew more and more in awe of the sheer scale and wonder of the universe. But their newfound sense of awe was short-lived. As they continued their travels, they encountered a hostile race of beings that were intent on exterminating them. These beings seemed to possess technology far beyond anything the humans had ever seen, and they quickly found themselves outmatched. A ferocious battle broke out, the likes of which the crew had never seen before. Blasts of energy, beams of light, and explosions rocked the ship, as the two sides fought tooth and nail. Just as it seemed as though all hope was lost, Commander Johnson and his team came up with a plan that just might save them. They managed to infiltrate the enemy ship, steering it towards a black hole and triggering its self-destruct sequence. As their foe's ship plunged into the swirling, inky mass of the black hole, Johnson and his team braced themselves for the inevitable impact. But once again, they survived. They had learned much about the universe and themselves during their journey, and they knew that they would never again be the same. With each encounter, they understood that the universe was vast and complex, and that their mission to explore it was fraught with risk and danger. But despite the dangers, they were driven to keep pushing forward, into the uncharted depths of the cosmos. Chapter 4. Descent into Madness. After facing down hostile races and surviving lost communication with Earth, Commander Jack Johnson and his team had become more and more equipped to handle whatever the universe threw at them. But as they hurtled through the cosmos, Johnson began to notice that something was changing in his crew. They had been pushed to their limits, subjected to the unrelenting stress and strain of their mission. One member of his team, Dr. Rachel Chen, had grown increasingly mistrustful of their mission and the secrets that were being kept from her. She voiced her concerns to the rest of the crew, but her warnings were dismissed as undue anxiety. Amidst the growing tension within the crew, they discovered a planet that had never before been observed. The planet's surface was eerily silent and bleak, devoid of any signs of life. Despite this, there was an inexplicable pull, almost as if something was calling out to them from deep within its heart. The crew gathered their equipment and set foot on the planet's surface, expecting something miraculous to happen. But as they continued to explore, Johnson realized that something was not right. The planet's seemingly barren surface was actually hiding something ancient and malevolent, whose existence had long been forgotten. It wasn't long before they stumbled onto evidence of a once great civilization, which had been inexplicably destroyed, leaving only jagged ruins in its wake. Something about the way those ruins loomed and tended to merge with the red sky made Johnson feel claustrophobic and anxious. As they delved deeper, the crew became increasingly agitated and paranoid. They saw things that weren't there, heard whispers in the dark, and experienced intense, visceral hallucinations. Tensions among the crew grew to a breaking point and they began to turn on each other, fueled by their growing fears and distrust. Amid the turmoil, something began to stir within the bowels of the ancient ruins. A dark presence emerged, an almost incomprehensible force that could drive a person to insanity with its mere presence. The crew scrambled, fighting to understand what was happening, to save themselves and stop the madness that had taken hold of them. In the end, they were able to come together to defeat the evil force within the planet, but it had taken an immense toll on them all. They had glimpsed the depths of despair, lost in a chasm of insanity that nearly left them broken. But as they emerged victorious, they understood that the universe was much more vast and terrifying than they could have ever imagined. Commander Johnson made it his mission to ensure that his crew could heal from what they had gone through. They, and the mission they were on, were both fragile, and the risks of exploration were ever present. But despite the threat of danger, they knew that they had to continue to explore the universe, seeking out its secrets even if it meant risking their own sanity. Chapter 5. By the skin of their teeth. Despite everything that they had been through, Commander Jack Johnson and his team were still driven to explore the unknown depths of space. They had faced down hostile forces, been lost in space, and descended into madness, but they remained steadfast in their mission to uncover the secrets of the universe. As they journeyed through the stars, they encountered a system that contained a black hole that was unlike any other. This black hole was surrounded by strange, swirling structures that defied any known scientific explanation. Intrigued, they decided to investigate this anomaly. As they drew closer, they began to notice something even more peculiar. The structures that circled the black hole were formed of an unfamiliar substance, something that they had never before encountered. It glinted in the light and pulsed with an otherworldly energy. The team knew they had to get closer to explore the structure, but as they got closer, their instruments began to malfunction. Suddenly, they were pulled toward the black hole and rapidly spiraled toward the anomaly. Desperately, The crew did all they could think of to engage the thrusters to get themselves to safety, but it was no use. Their ship had been inexorably drawn into the black hole's event horizon. Inside the black hole, the team fought against the immense gravitational forces that threatened to crush them. Time and space seemed to warp around them, and their very existence was in danger. But they remained determined to find a way out, even as all seemed lost. As they worked through their checklists, one crew member made an incredible discovery. They realized that the material they had discovered was forming something like a wormhole, a shortcut through space-time. If they could escape the black hole, they just might be able to use the wormhole to return home. With that narrow sliver of hope, the team worked fervently to repair their ship and escape the black hole's grip. The risks could not have been higher, but they were driven forward by the desire for exploration and the need to survive. One by one, they tackled each obstacle and managed to pull the ship back into real space. As soon as they were able to put their ship in order, they clambered into the newly discovered wormhole. It was a miracle that they were still alive after their ordeal, but they knew they could not take anything for granted. As they hurtled through the wormhole, they held on for dear life, praying that they would emerge on the other side in one piece. The next thing they knew, they had exited the wormhole and were back in familiar space. They let out a collective sigh of relief, overcome with joy that they had made it out alive. Their mission had survived the impossible, and more importantly, so had they. As they made their way back toward Earth, Commander Johnson and his team knew that they had been given a new lease on life. The universe was full of wonder, but also fraught with danger. Their experiences had taught them that they had to approach each new encounter with caution and intelligence, relying on their wits and determination as they pushed onward into the unknown. They had indeed made it back home safe, by the skin of their teeth. Chapter 6: The Final Countdown. As the SS Ares Expedition 3 reached the final stages of its mission, Commander Jack Johnson and his team felt a combination of excitement and trepidation. They had been traveling for what felt like an eternity, pushing the limits of their mental and physical capacities, and now they were about to face their last and most crucial challenge. The mission had been an enormous success, surpassing all of their expectations. They had discovered new galaxies, worlds, and civilizations that had blown their minds away, but they knew that there was still one discovery that they had yet to make, the ultimate goal of their mission. They were on the lookout for the elusive warp drive, a technology that could propel humanity through the stars at faster-than-light speeds. Over the years, they had visited countless planets and amassed a wealth of data, which they had used to slowly hone in on the source of the warp drive. But now they were getting close to their final destination, and tensions were running high. They knew that the stakes had never been higher, given that the future of humanity would be decided by this mission. As they drew closer to their final destination, the crew became increasingly anxious. They feared that after all of their efforts, they might not find the warp drive, or worse, someone else might beat him to it. But they remained focused and determined, knowing that their years of hard work and dedication would pay off in the end. As they landed on the planet's surface, they quickly discovered a massive, fortress-like structure. It looked as though it had been built to withstand an attack from the most advanced alien races in the universe. After searching through the structure, they finally found the object of their mission, the legendary warp drive. However, this was where the mission took an unexpected turn. The team had realized that obtaining the warp drive would be a challenging and complicated task, and as they began extracting it, they activated a defense mechanism that they did not anticipate. The team found themselves under attack by automated defense systems that had been programmed to protect the warp drive at any cost. In a desperate attempt to obtain the warp drive, the team members engaged in a fierce gun battle with the attacking machines. They fought with everything they had, determined not to let this mission be for naught. They knew that failure was not an option, and that the fate of humanity rested in their hands. As they finally managed to fight past the defense systems and leave the planet with the warp drive, they knew that they had succeeded in their mission. They had obtained the greatest prize in the galaxy and brought humanity one step closer to exploring the universe to its fullest potential. The team looked upon the warp drive with a sense of awe and wonder, knowing that it was a true scientific miracle. They had accomplished something that had been thought impossible for centuries. They had made history, and they couldn't wait to bring their discovery back home. As they turned to leave the planetary system, they knew that their mission was not yet over. There were still new galaxies, new worlds, and new discoveries to be made. And they would continue the journey into the unknown with the same courage and determination that had brought them this far. Chapter 7: The Last Stand. As the SS Ares Expedition 3 began its journey back to Earth, the crew prepared for their final battle. They had managed to uncover the greatest scientific discovery in human history, the warp drive, but they were not able to return to Earth unnoticed. Their enemies, who seek to possess the knowledge of the warp drive, were hot on their heels, willing to do whatever it takes to capture them and obtain the technology. They knew that they were in a race against time to reach Earth before their enemies caught up with them. As they were preparing their ship for the long journey home, they received a distress signal from a nearby planet. They hesitated for a moment, knowing that their enemies were likely monitoring their communications, but decided they couldn't ignore a plea for help. When they arrived on the planet, they discovered a once thriving colony had been attacked by hostile forces. The survivors were weak and injured, and their defenses were broken. The only way to get them out was to fight, and they knew that they had to do everything in their power to get them back to Earth. The team knew that they were now in a life-or-death battle with their enemies. Their adversaries were ready to stop at nothing to obtain the warp drive and held nothing back in the ensuing battle. Missiles streaked through the air, and plasma blasts lit up the sky as the two sides fought with all they had. With the help of the refugees from the colony, Commander Johnson and the rest of his team managed to make it back to their ship, but not without suffering heavy losses. Their enemies were relentless in their pursuit, and they were running out of time and resources. As the ship lifted off the ground, the crew experienced one final showdown with their enemies. They were on the point of destruction, with their ship riddled with holes and malfunctioning after taking several hits from the enemy's weapons. Through the smoke and chaos, Commander Johnson knew there was only one option left: they had to make their last stand. The crew rallied together, knowing this was the moment they had been working towards for years. They were the only ones standing between humanity and destruction. They took aim with their weapons, one final salvo that could decide the fate of the universe once and for all. The air was thick with tension as the crew fought for their lives and freedom. In the end, the crew emerged victorious in valiant fashion, with Commander Johnson delivering the finishing blow that destroyed their enemy's ship. The team had been pushed to their limits, but they had succeeded in their incredible mission. As they finally returned to Earth, they were greeted as heroes. They had pushed humanity beyond its limits, discovering wonders that had been thought impossible. They had also defeated an enemy that wanted to steal that knowledge for its own gain. Humanity was now on its way to the stars, and it was all thanks to the unwavering bravery and dedication of the SS Ares Expedition 3 crew.